All right, so I just wanted to wrap things up today, talking about record keeping and maintaining the nutrient management plan. So, once you're finished here, you've developed a plan, which is great. And that's, in my mind, kind of the hardest part. Upkeeping the plan and updating it should be relatively easy. All your information is in there now. And it's even easier if you actually keep records, keep the records in GoCrop, or keep the records somewhere. I think I mentioned this before. It is a requirement to keep records, manure application records, harvest records, fertilizer records, when you apply it, how much, and it should follow your plan. That's why you wrote it, so that you could then use it. That's the goal. But I think, reality, I don't think it, I know it. Reality is that things don't always go as planned, generally. So all your best efforts to do what you planned can quickly go awry as soon as the season comes around and, I don't know, it's really wet or it's really dry. Or your tractor breaks down or whatever the situation is. Usually the plan is not implemented 100%. And the value of keeping the records is that you are actually recording what happened. And I know not everyone here, but some people here are a certified small farm, a medium farm, or a large farm. And if that's the case, you are on a inspection schedule with the state of Vermont, where they are coming out and doing a farm inspection from the water quality perspective. And one of the requirements is this plan. And depending on when they show up, they will not only want to see a up-to-date plan, but they'll want to see your records to make sure they match up with the plan. So for those of you that are certified organic, you're already used to someone coming out and looking at your records, and sort of doing that evaluation. I would say it's kind of like that, but a little bit different. But having the records is part of the process. And of course, the records themselves help you keep track of your yields and how the fields are performing and, what you're doing on each field and if that's making a difference or not. Keeping the records in GoCrop, again, can be really helpful. The system is there to do it. And then you can use the records to print out reports for NOFA or BOF, your certifier, for the state, etc. And then you can also use your records to update the plan, which can be really helpful and expedite things. So you are supposed to have a new manure test every year, and you are supposed to use that to update your plan. So that is a requirement in the RAPs. I do feel like most people, we fall short there quite a bit, but you are supposed to take a manure sample for every storage on the farm every single year and have that. Your soil tests need to be updated every 3 years. So if they were new in 2022, you have 3 years before you have to update them again. That's a requirement, actually, that's a regulatory requirement for every farming operation in the state, not just certified small farms or MFOs or LFOs. Every farm is supposed to be taking soil tests and following them every 3 years. For most farms, unless your neighbor calls you in or somebody calls about something you're doing, the state's not going to show up. And actually, for most even certified small farms, you're on an every 7-year inspection cycle. So the likelihood, if you've been inspected and sort of passed your inspection, of seeing somebody again, you know, in the next 7 to 10 years is pretty slim. Unless, again, somebody calls up and says, so-and-so, Luke's spreading manure and it's Christmas. Is that like a little Christmas present? He's, you know, and which happens. Actually, I feel like more people get drop-in inspections because somebody has called about something, right? So if that does happen, they're going to want to see these things. And now you have them. So every 3 years on the soil tests and every year on the manure tests, you are supposed to be updating the plan every year. Most people actually get on that 3-year cycle where they take new soil tests and then they come back in and update their plan 3 years later, which for most people that it's the law is to update every year. I shouldn't say what I think is acceptable because the law says every year. Okay. So there is a mobile application for GoCrop that you can download on your phone or your tablet. And it's pretty slick and it's easy to keep records in. And then those records go into outer space and make their way into this. I don't know how it happens, right? But basically it's in the cloud. And it moves into your program. But I think as people have experienced, you need to once in a while be in service, right, Lindsay? You have to actually have internet connectivity on your phone for the records to move from your phone to the cloud. Yes. We've had a few farmers lose a few things because of that. Right. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere, or not even in the middle of nowhere, but there's just no internet service, you know, it will store on your device and then move to the cloud once you're in service. Okay. So outlining the fields in GoCrop, those will show up on the iPhone app or whatever kind of device you have. And then you can like click on those and it'll bring you into that field and you can keep records in there. It's pretty cool. And you can refer back to your plan. So what you thought you were going to do. So you can double check on that. Then you can add your records, how many bales you took off that field, you know, how many loads of manure you put on it, what spreader you used. So we've tried to set it up to actually be useful, right? And then it will show you in real time. So if you apply manure to a field, you put what spreader, you put how many loads, it'll show you in real time the nutrient value of that. And then it records it in GoCrop for you, which is great. Okay, so records, soil tests, manure tests, all requirements of the NMP. If you don't update it and you don't renew your license, so the license has to be renewed every year, it's $50, which I know is an expense, but we have to pay to keep the system going. It doesn't just magically do that on its own. I wish it did. We finally got out of the hole. We used to owe the university a lot of money, but we finally got out of the hole. And so now the money that we generate on a yearly basis goes for upgrades and maintaining the system, which it costs quite a bit of money to do that. Okay, so let's talk about, you know, how to keep records. And, you know, we're all around during the season. So if you know, get to the time where you're out doing things and you're like, hey, I should really put this on my phone. You know, just give us a call. You can put it on your device today if you want. We can get you set up with that today so you're ready to go. But yeah, just reach out if you need help. Okay, so to keep records in this system, right? So you log in on your computer and you did something, you harvested all your first cut. Now you want to put the records in. So you go in the house or in the barn, get your computer going, and you can enter records 2 ways. So you see this plus button, right? It says add records. So you just say, oh, I'm going to add records. Okay. And it asks you what type of record do you want to add? So you can see there's a long list of things you can add in here. You can add in a harvest record, tillage, I mean, all kinds of things. You have to keep fertilizer, manure, and harvest records. That's kind of the minimum. And in some cases, depending on your farm size, you also have to keep weather records. I don't think any of you are of that size. So let's say we're going to do a fertilizer application. So then you can pick the field, you do that on when you did it. If there was a corresponding planned application. So once your plan is completed, this will basically pop up. So if you're applying manure, let's say, maybe I should do that as an example. Whatever you said you were going to do in GoCrop should pop up. Okay, so I said I'm going to put manure on, and it said, well, what application does that correspond to in your plan? So you can pick one. Well, it's February. Guess I'll go with that one. And it may be none, right? So you can put that too. So where are you taking the manure from? How do you want to record it? So you can put on the total number of loads you put on, which is what most people are going to do, right? I'm going to keep track of how many loads I put on. And then it says, well, what spreader are you using? Crap, I didn't put a spreader in there. Anyway, so you'd select your spreader and then you put on how many loads. Okay. Then below it asks you about application conditions. So if you incorporated it and then the moisture of the soil. And then you just save it. It's pretty straightforward. And then it said it can't be blank, but okay. So then it'll record this record and you can continue on and add more records. So the other way to add it is through the fields. So you can go to an individual field and you can see down here, our laundry list we've been going through. The last one is field records. So this is again, what you're going to do this coming season. So you can see this is a different view. So this shows you the nutrients you needed on that field, what the recommendation was, showed you from last year's applications. It shows you how much you have, how much more is needed, shows you your P index and everything. So you can kind of keep track of these things in real time. And then you're going to add a record. So I'm not going to do manure this time because okay, so I added fertilizer and you can see it pops right up there. Shows us how many nutrients we got from it and it subtracts it from the total. Okay. All right. It also is sort of continuously updating the P index for you. So for farmers that are, you know, might have a medium or a high P index, this is really important because if you do get into a situation where it's wet and you want to put more manure on this field or something, this will keep recalculating the P index based on what you're doing to make sure you're staying in compliance. You have to stay in compliance. The P index doesn't help you do that. It's just telling you like, hey, it was low, now you're high.
Doesn't shut the track
Yeah, it
down.
doesn't, the manure spreader doesn't blow up. Well, we should work on that, but we're behind in development,
You don't
so.
want it to blow up.
Yeah,
You want
no,
it to stop.
that's true. Good point, good point. I went right to the edge there. I shouldn't have done that.
Quick way.
Yeah, I know. You know, and then you learn your lesson when it blows up in your face. No, just kidding. You can see what kind of mother I am. Anyway, okay, so that is, that's it. That's the record keeping part. And again, when you print off your reports, you can print off a records report. You can print off a summarized one for the whole farm. You can print one off for every field on the farm, whatever kind of depth of information you want. Okay, so I think Lindsay is gonna show you guys the app in case anybody wants to use that. So are you ready, Lindsay? Okay.
All right, it's gonna take me a moment to get things set up here, I think. So can you guys see this app screen right here?
We can, but I can see it up there, but I can't see it on
Okay.
the computer.
Thank you.
Um,
Mhm, mhm. All right, how about now?
I just see a funny thing that says screen sharing has stopped.
Thanks, Sarah. Do you see the green connecting now?
Yep, that started now.
Awesome, great. So I think where I wanted to start was by showing you where to find the app. I've already downloaded on mine, but whether you have an Android mobile device or an iPhone or iPad device, either way, you go to the App Store. And sorry, the delay here is a little funny. And then you can click on search. And in your search bar, just type in Go Crop. Tap search. And then you can see that the app is there. For me, since I've already downloaded it, I can click open to open it. But for you, if you don't have it, you would click download. The app is free with your subscription, so there's no additional cost. So it's a really handy way to have a way to keep your records out in the field or in your barn or wherever you are. So waiting for the screen to change here. There we go. So once you download GoCrop, or maybe I can go back for a moment, this is what the app looks like over here, which you can't see because there's a delay in the mirroring. So I'm waiting a moment here for my screen to catch up. There we go. So I know there's a lot of green icons here. It's one of the pieces of, I guess, downloading agricultural related apps. A lot of them are green, but you can see here our GoCrop one is this one that's fourth down on the left. It's a lime green and it's got this little swirl of a G and a C all together for GoCrop. So to open it, you tap your icon. And then it'll ask you for your username and password. This is the same one that you use to log into your GoCrop account on your laptop or desktop. Oops. So once you enter that in, it will take you to this page, which will display your farms. And we're, again, experiencing a little bit of lag time, so I'm waiting for the screen to show you what that will look like. Because I've already logged in on my end, so we're just waiting here. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I think one thing to note is that once you do log in and you'll see your farm screen, just like on your desktop, you'll have a list of your farm or farms that you have. And if it's your first time logging in, all your information needs to download onto your phone. So it might take a little while depending on how many fields you have. I've already downloaded my farm, so I'm not seeing that swirl of a that it's downloaded on my information. So our farm name is Extension Farm. You can just kind of click anywhere on that top piece. And that'll immediately bring you to your fields. And I think one of the things I'd like to show you here is that up in the upper left-hand corner, you've got this hamburger. And so you can see what else is available for you to see. And it's very similar to your GoCrop account, where you'll have your farm listed in the sub menu, fields, and then records. At the bottom, also in your GoCrop account, you can toggle between multiple farms if you have that, your account. And this is the thing that I want to pick up here is up in the, or not up, in the bottom, in the up to date section, the last sync says a minute ago. And so when Heather was talking about if you're out in the field and you're getting your records, you want to make sure that those records go from your phone up into the cloud so that they can connect back to your desktop and they're all saved and stored well. And one way you can do that is when you go back into your house, wherever there's Wi-Fi or wireless connection, is by looking at this up-to-date last sync. And you want to make sure that it's current so that you know that all of your records have been uploaded to the cloud. So if you're taking records, that's like a every evening, every afternoon type of thing that you should do. Just open up your account, make sure that it's all up to date and that it's all in sync. So from here, we can also look at your farm information, you know, what kind of nutrient sources you have and the equipment that you have. We have our main menus on the left in the hamburger, and then our sub menus in the bottom down here. And then we can also look at your fields. One of the nice things that are handy pieces is that you can look at your fields either as a field list, which we saw earlier, and that you also see in your GoCrop account, but you can also see your fields as a map. And I know that what you're seeing on your screen now is finally the field. For mine, it's been a while. You've been able to see it. So you can zoom in and out. You know, you can imagine that if this were a farm or your farm, that you have a bunch of different red outlines so that you could click on the field itself in order to choose that versus the list. So from here, I'm going to click this field or tap it with my finger on the iPad. And you can see then, you guys can't see because there's a delay, but it'll drop a pin and it'll name what that field is. And then if you tap it again, it'll bring you to that field and all its information. So I'm going to wait a moment for my mirroring device to catch up. And here we can see that when we click our field, it takes us right to what our records are. And if you want to add a record, you can press this orange button up here in the upper right-hand corner. And it's defaulting into the fertilizer application, but you can click this bar up here and toggle between any of the other records that you want to keep and otherwise have access to on your desktop. So you can see in the bottom, it's like a scroll piece. I'm going to show you guys here in class. Just like scroll through here because on the screen it's not coming through very well, but you can enter them all that way. And then also in GoCrop, the one you've been using, another way to enter records is going to the hamburger. And then there's this other records button on the left side that will pop up eventually. And that's another way that you can continue to add records over and over again.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's what Lindsay calls it. Is it the official name?
That's what I've heard it called. What do you guys call it? I mean, I guess you could call it, but there's no arrow.
I can't even see it.
I mean, you caught, I guess, like a square plain hot dog bun situation.
I like hamburger. Let's do a hamburger. Square plain hot dog.
Because I guess that's, yeah. I mean, you guys can tell where my mind is. I'm like, what food does this most look like? A hamburger. All right, so I'm almost wrapped up here. Apparently there's a stir about that. Going back to our hamburger and going back to our field, like I said, it defaults to records, but you can also see your field info. Again, we have a sub menu that's on the bottom. And so if you tap that, then you can see the outline of your field and a lot of the information that you filled out one of your first days in class with all of like your name, the acreage, the soils, that type of information. And then you can go to, if you want to, you can see your plan for that field. And this is where you get to see what did you plan to apply and when. And you can also say you want to see all your plan or just your plan manure applications or just your fertilizer applications. So you can filter it, which is kind of nice. And then we can go back to records and you can see we have our soil test. We can click on that to see those details. And that is the app in brief. Are there any questions people have? I'm not seeing it. Not about the app. Well, what other questions do you have?
Well, I was just wondering, like,
Oh,
if you planned on spreading 20 loads in the field, but you
Mhm.
only got 19. So
Mhm.
You didn't do it on, instead of early, you did it mid.
mhm.
You go in and change it or just?
Right.
Okay, so this kind of gets at what Heather was talking about earlier, I think, where you just sat in this class, you made a plan, and then it comes time to implement your plan and things don't always go according to plan. And this is really key, is that you have your plan, you just made it, so you don't want to change that necessarily, but you do want to keep records of what you actually did. So if you applied less or a little bit more or at a different time than you had intended, that still should go in your records.
Okay. So the plan is just a plan, the records are records, of what you really did. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So you can print it out and look like, okay, so these are the fields we need to cover. Let's go do them this weekend and see what we got left over.
Right, and this, could happen, right, where like, let's say you planned on spreading in early May and it's really, really wet and it doesn't make sense for you out in your fields, you're gonna run up your fields, tractor might get stuck, and you end up doing it mid-May, late May, it's part of
That's life.
farming, yeah, yeah.
Just change it to records.
So I think that,
Um,
yep,
We're gonna.
so if we're, like, if we needed to change something in the plan, like that would be, if we made a mistake in, say, the detailed description of the fields or something like that, that would be we'd have to go back into the computer to be able to do that. You can't do that in the app. Is that correct?
yes, and thank you for asking that question, Sarah. That's a really good point, is that not every capability that you have on your laptop or your desktop is something that you have the capability of in the app. So yeah, you can't edit your field information in the app. You also can't really change your plan in the app. The only thing you can really do in the app is add your records. You can view your field information, you can view your plan, but those are not things that you can do in the app. You can also view your nutrient balance. I forgot to show that there was nutrient balance and plan details in your plan section.
But in theory, you could go on the desktop browser on the phone.
This is true. You can also go on the web browser on your phone if you wanted to do something on the fly. That's true, to have access to those things. All right, so I'm taking that silence as folks are like ready to work on wrapping up their plan. All right. Heather, is there any last words you wanted to say to folks?
Bye. No, we're trying. Sorry. We're trying to review, get all the plans reviewed and finalized. And that's it.
All right, so I don't know if everybody could hear Heather from where we're all at, but she said goodbye, and also it was great working with you. I'm adding that in
Yeah,
there.
I did say that.
But please send, if you haven't already, please send the nutrient management plans for her to review today, and their plan is to wrap that up, so you have something by the end of the day. That is your plan, print it out and ready to use. If you have any questions throughout the season, please don't hesitate to contact our office. We're here to support you. I think that's it.